the music was pulsing, and the flavor was undeniable. For fans of love and hip-hop, Atlanta Frost Bistro wasn't just a restaurant. It was the crown jewel of Rasheeda and Kirk Frost's empire. It was a place where luxury met soul food, where the city's elite gathered to celebrate. But beneath the glittering surface of success, a dark shadow was creeping in, one that would eventually force the doors to shut for good. Imagine building a legacy from the ground up, pouring your heart, soul, and millions of dollars into a vision, only to have it dismantled not by poor reviews or bad business, but by targeted fear. The headlines hit the internet like a tidal wave. Frost Bistro closes permanently. The speculation ran wild. Was it mismanagement? Was it the economy? Or was it the constant drama that follows the reality TV lifestyle? When the truth finally spilled out, it left the industry and even fellow co-stars like spies absolutely speechless. This wasn't a standard business failure. Rasheeda and Kirk finally broke their silence to reveal a terrifying reality of anonymous death threats and escalating violence that made it impossible to protect their staff or their patrons, the safety of their family, the people who worked there, and the fans who ate there became the ultimate priority. In a world where your every move is televised, the Frosts found themselves trapped in a dangerous game where the stakes were life and death. Tonight, we are peeling back the curtain on the hidden side of celebrity entrepreneurship. We're looking at the chilling messages, the security breaches, and the emotional toll that led to the heartbreaking decision to walk away from it all. This isn't just a business update. It's a survival story. The energy in Atlanta is usually electric. But for Rasheeda and Kirk Frost, that electricity recently turned into a lightning strike of fear. Building a business in the heart of a bustling city is a dream for many. But for the stars of love and hip-hop Atlanta, that dream quickly morphed into a high-stakes security crisis. When they first opened Frost Bistro and Bar, it was meant to be a sanctuary of high-end dining and soulful vibes. It was a physical manifestation of their hard work, a place where the boss chick herself could host her fans and friends. However, the reality of fame is that it doesn't just bring admiration. It brings a specific, dangerous kind of obsession that targets the things you love most. The rise of the bistro was meteoric. Located in the historic Castleberry Hill neighborhood, it became the place to be seen. You could walk in on a Tuesday night and see the city's most influential figures, sipping cocktails and enjoying a menu that reflected the couple's deep Southern roots. For Rasheeda, this was more than just a line of revenue. It was about legacy. She had already conquered the fashion world with her pressed boutiques, and moving into the hospitality industry felt like the natural next step for a woman who has spent decades building her brand. Kirk, acting as the backbone of the operation, ensured that every detail from the lighting to the acoustics was perfect. For a long time it was, but as the restaurant's popularity grew, so did a dark undercurrent of hostility that no one could have predicted. It started with subtle shifts in the atmosphere. Usually, the drama associated with the Frosts is confined to the television screen, where fans watch their ups and downs from the safety of their living rooms. But some viewers began to blur the lines between entertainment and reality. They started seeing the bistro not as a place of business, but as a stage where they could insert themselves into the narrative. The first signs of trouble were minor disruptive customers claiming they were owed something because they supported the show, but that situation escalated with terrifying speed. The couple began noticing a pattern of targeted harassment that went far beyond typical internet trolling. It moved from the comment sections of Instagram directly into the workspace. The bistro's phone lines, intended for reservations and customer inquiries, began to ring with voices that didn't want a table. They wanted to instill fear. These anonymous callers began detailing the movements of the staff, describing what people were wearing as they walked to their cars after a late shift. This wasn't just random hate, it was surveillance. Rasheeda and Kirk were forced to realize that their very presence at the establishment was becoming a magnet for individuals who weren't there to eat, but to cause harm. As the weeks went by, the nature of these communications became increasingly graphic. The term death threats is often thrown around lightly in the digital age. But for the Frosts, there was nothing light about it. They were receiving specific descriptions of violence that made it clear the perpetrators were watching the building. The security team, which was already robust, had to be doubled and then tripled. Imagine the emotional toll of trying to run a happy hour while knowing that somewhere in the crowd, or just outside the glass doors, someone might be waiting to act on a violent fantasy. The pressure was suffocating. The impact on the employees was, perhaps, the most heartbreaking part of this first phase of the crisis. These were people who had become like family to Rasheeda and Kirk. They were young servers, talented chefs, and hardworking bartenders who just wanted to build their careers. When the threats started targeting the staff members by name, the dynamic of the restaurant shifted from hospitality to survival. People started showing up to work with visible anxiety. The laughter in the kitchen was replaced by hushed whispers about who had seen a suspicious car in the alley or who had received a frightening message on their personal social media accounts. Kirk Frost, often seen as the stoic manager of the reset family's affairs, found himself in a position where business logic no longer applied. You can fix a broken oven, you can revise a menu, and you can market your way out of a slow season. But you cannot manage a credible threat to human life. He began spending his nights reviewing security footage, looking for faces that didn't belong and coordinating with local law enforcement to ensure a visible presence around the block. Yet, the more they defended the space, the more the aggressors seemed to enjoy the challenge. It became a psychological war of attrition. For Rasheeda, the bistro was her pride and joy. A beautiful space she had designed with her own aesthetic. Seeing it become a source of terror was a bitter pill to swallow. She has spent her life being a public figure, but she has always maintained a boundary when it came to the safety of her inner circle. When that boundary was breached, the boss chick had to make a pivot. She wasn't just a business owner anymore. She was a protector. She began to see that the very thing she built to celebrate her community was being used as a weapon against her. When Spice, the queen of dancehall and a staple of the Atlanta social scene, heard the extent of what was happening, she was genuinely rattled. Spice is no stranger to the pressures of the spotlight. But the idea of a beloved local business being systematically dismantled by threats of violence was a new level of low even for the industry. She had spent many nights at the bistro, supporting her friends and enjoying the fruits of their labor. To hear that the Frosts were being cornered into a position where they might have to walk away from it all was a shock to the entire love and hip-hop family. The flow of information between the couple and their inner circle became a series of emergency meetings. They had to weigh the financial loss against the potential for a tragedy that could never be undone. The bistro was profitable, it was popular, and it was a landmark. But as the threats moved from phone calls to physical sightings of individuals loitering with ill intent, the writing was on the wall. The first part of this nightmare ended with a realization. You can't run a business if you're constantly preparing for a funeral. The tension had reached a breaking point. And the decision that followed would change their lives and the Atlanta dining scene dash forever as the sun set on one of the final normal weeks of operation. The Frosts stood in their empty dining room, looking at the beautiful decor and the empty tables, knowing that the shadow looming over them was growing larger. They had built an empire, but they were discovering that even empires have vulnerabilities when the enemy is invisible and fueled by a toxic obsession. The transition from a thriving business to a closed door was about to begin. And the story of how they navigated that transition is one of the most harrowing chapters in their long careers as the sun began to set on what would become the final weeks of Frost Bistro's operation. The atmosphere inside the building felt heavy. as if the oxygen itself was being replaced by a thick sense of dread. For Rasheeda and Kirk Frost, the transition from successful business owners to targets of a coordinated campaign reached its peak. During a series of terrifying incidents that left them with no choice but to retreat, the threats were no longer just echoes on a phone line. They had begun to manifest in the physical world surrounding the very sanctuary they had built for the Atlanta community. The turning point occurred on a humid Tuesday evening, a night that started like any other. The dining room was filled with the clinking of glasses and the low hum of conversation. However, the security team outside noticed a group of vehicles circling the block with predatory persistence. Unlike the usual fans or curious onlookers who might linger for a glimpse of the love and hip-hop stars, these individuals were masked and deliberate. When approached by the bistro's private security, the situation nearly turned violent. Words were exchanged that made it clear this wasn't about a bad meal or a personal grudge. It was a promise of impending chaos. The message was sent loud and clear. As long as these doors remained open, everyone inside was a potential victim. Inside the kitchen, the staff began to feel the tremors of this external pressure. Rasheeda, who has always prided herself on being a hands-on leader, found it increasingly difficult to maintain a brave face. She wasn't just worried about her brand. She was worried about the young men and women who relied on her for a paycheck. How could she, in good conscience, ask a server to carry a tray of food when there was a credible threat that someone might burst through the doors with a weapon? The boss chick persona, built on resilience and strength, was being tested in a way that no reality TV storyline could ever prepare her for. Kirk Frost, taking the lead on the security front, began an intensive internal investigation. He discovered that the harassment had moved into a coordinated digital assault. The perpetrators were sharing photos of the bistro's back exits, employee schedules, and even the private vehicles of the management team on underground forums. This was a sophisticated level of stalking that suggested a deep-seated obsession. Every time the couple tried to tighten their circle, the shadow followed. It became a psychological game of cat and mouse, where the mouse owned a multi-million-dollar glass. Building in the middle of a major city, the emotional weight of this situation hit a fever pitch. When the threats began to name the Frost children, for any parent, this is the ultimate red line. You can handle the gossip, you can handle the business losses, and you can even handle the personal insults, but the moment the safety of your family is used as a bargaining chip, the game changes. Rasheeda spent nights in tears questioning why her success had invited such vitriol. She had spent decades building a bridge between her music, her fashion, and her community, only to find that some people wanted to burn that bridge while she was still standing on it. During this period of high tension, Spice remained a constant source of support, though she was reportedly left stunned by the sheer intensity of the situation. Having navigated the rough waters of the music industry herself, Spice understood that fame comes with a price, but the price being asked of the Frosts was becoming astronomical. She witnessed firsthand the security briefings and the hushed, panicked conversations in the back offices. It wasn't just about haters anymore. It was about a targeted effort to dismantle their peace of mind. The realization that their friends and colleagues were also in the crosshairs made the burden even heavier for the couple. The decision to shut down wasn't a slow rollout. It was a sudden, painful necessity. One afternoon, Kirk called an emergency meeting with the entire staff. The air in the room was cold, despite the Atlanta heat outside. With a heavy heart, he explained that the level of danger had surpassed their ability to guarantee safety. He watched as the faces of his employees, people he had seen grow and thrive, fell into expressions of shock and sadness. They weren't just losing a job, they were losing a home. But the alternative was too grim to contemplate. The Frosts chose the livelihoods and lives of their people over the profits of the bistro. In the days following the announcement, the process of ghosting the building began. To the public, it looked like a standard closure. But behind the scenes, it was a tactical extraction. Valuable equipment, high-end decor, and personal memorabilia were moved out under the cover of darkness. They didn't want to draw any more attention to the site than necessary. Every truck that pulled away from the curb felt like a piece of Rasheeda's heart being stripped away. She had hand-picked the velvet for the booths. She had designed the lighting to create the perfect glow. Now, it was all being packed into crates to prevent it from being destroyed by those who wished them harm. The silence that followed the closure was perhaps the loudest part of the whole ordeal. The bustling corner of Castleberry Hill, once vibrant, with the sounds of the Frost Bistro playlist, went dark. The social media world erupted with theories. Some claimed the couple was hiding financial ruin, while others whispered about legal troubles. But the truth was far simpler and much more sinister. They were hiding from a threat that had become too real to ignore. They chose to go quiet to starve the fire of the attention it craved. The doors are locked, the windows are shuttered, and the Frosts have retreated into a private space of reflection and protection. The bistro is gone, but the threat remains a lingering ghost in their lives. The question now wasn't just what happened to the restaurant, but what happens to Rasheeda and Kirk. How do you move forward when the very thing that made you successful, visibility, is the thing that put a target on your back? The aftermath of the shutdown was about to begin, and the road to recovery would be the hardest journey they had ever faced. The closure of Frost Bistro left a massive void in the Atlanta social scene, but the silence inside the building was nothing compared to the storm of questions brewing outside. For Rasheeda and Kirk Frost, the days following the shutdown were spent in a state of high-alert reflection. They had successfully moved their staff and assets out of harm's way. But the psychological scars of being hunted by anonymous threats didn't vanish just because the closed sign was hanging on the door. This final chapter of the saga isn't just about a business ending. It's about a family reclaiming their right to live without fear. As the news settled, Rasheeda finally decided it was time to address her community. She didn't do it with a flashy press release or a dramatic television segment. Instead, she chose a more intimate approach, sharing the heavy reality of their situation with her loyal followers. The boss chick revealed that while she was heartbroken to see the bistro go, she would never trade a life for a business. This statement resonated deeply with fans who had only seen the glitz and glamour of their lives. Served as a stark reminder that behind the jewelry and the cameras, these are real people with real vulnerabilities. The reaction from the love and Sinsabis. The reaction from the love and mid hip-hop community was one of overwhelming solidarity. Spice, who had been left stunned by the initial revelations, became a vocal advocate for the couple's privacy and safety. The incident sparked a much larger conversation within the industry about the dangers of parasocial relationships, where fans feel so connected to reality stars that they believe they have a right to interfere in their real-world lives. Frost's ordeal became a cautionary tale for every celebrity entrepreneur in the city. It highlighted the fact that physical locations are uniquely vulnerable targets in an age where anyone can track a celebrity's location in real -time behind the scenes. The couple began working closely with specialized security firms to overhaul their entire approach to public life. They realized that the open-door policy of a restaurant, while beautiful for community building, was too high a risk in the current climate. Kirk, ever the strategist, began shifting their focus back to their digital and retail empires businesses, like press that allowed for more controlled environments and tighter security protocols. They weren't giving up on their dreams. They were simply moving the chessboard to a place where they had the advantage. The emotional recovery for the staff was also a priority. Rasheeda and Kirk didn't just walk away and leave their team in the lurch. Reports surfaced that they helped several of their key employees find placement in other reputable establishments across Atlanta, ensuring that the Frost family was taken care of even after the house was gone. This act of loyalty solidified their reputation as leaders who care more about people than their bottom line. The bond between the couple and their former employees remained strong, a silver lining in an otherwise dark chapter. As months passed, The physical location of the bistro was eventually listed for lease. Seeing another name on the building was a bittersweet moment for the Frosts. It represented the end of an era, but it also represented freedom. They no longer had to wake up wondering if the night shift was safe. They no longer had to screen every phone call with a sense of impending doom. The threats, deprived of a physical target to focus on, eventually began to fade into the background. The cowards who hid behind digital masks realized they could no longer hurt the Frosts by targeting their business. In her final reflections on the experience, Rasheeda spoke about the importance of peace over everything. She admitted that for a long time she felt like she was failing by closing the doors. She felt like she was letting the haters win. But she eventually realized that the real win was keeping her family intact. The true victory was being able to sleep at night knowing her children were safe and her husband wasn't in the line of fire. She transformed her pain into a lesson on boundaries, teaching her fans that it is okay to walk away from something you love if it begins to cost you your soul. Today, the legacy of Frost Bistro lives on in the lessons it taught the industry. It serves as a blueprint for how to handle a crisis with dignity and how to prioritize human life over financial optics. Rasheeda and Kirk have emerged from this fire stronger and more united than ever. They have returned to their roots, focusing on music, fashion, and television, but with a new level of wisdom regarding their public footprint. The story of the Frost Bistro Shutdown is a powerful reminder that success in the spotlight comes with shadows. But as Rasheeda has proven time and again, you can't keep a boss chick down for long. She may have closed one door, but she has opened a dozen more in her mind, heart, and career. The bistro was a beautiful chapter, but it was just one chapter in a much longer book. As they move forward, they do so with their heads held high, protected not just by security guards, but by the unbreakable bond of their family and the support of a community that understands that some things are simply too precious to risk. The lights may be out at the bistro, but the Frost star is still shining brighter than ever. They have turned a narrative of fear into a narrative of resilience. For anyone thinking they could break this power couple, the message is clear. The building may be gone, but the empire is still standing. The story of Frost Bistro is a chilling Look at this, and we all know I've been exploring. Reminder that the price of fame is often much higher than we see on our screens. Rasheeda and Kirk made the ultimate sacrifice by choosing safety over a multi-million-dollar business. And it's a move that has left the entire industry talking. But we want to hear from you. Do you think they made the right call by shutting down completely? Or should they have tried to stay open with even more security? And what do you think this means for other celebrity-owned spots in the city? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We're reading every single one. If you found this deep dive insightful, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you never miss the latest updates on your favorite stars and the truth behind the headlines. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.